Okay, in this bite-sized grammar review, I'm going to give you the rundown on dative. Now, the dative case in German seems scary sometimes, but really it's not so complicated if you just break it down and think of it in a simple way. So with verbs, the instances where you need to use dative is when there is already a subject that's nominative. There's usually already a direct object in accusative. And then there's a third one, and you need to sort out what's happening to whom. So these three different nouns that appear with verbs, when they're together in this composition where you have one in nominative, one in accusative, and one in dative, they impart this meaning of transfer. So we call it, if you're a linguistics nerd like I am, we call it the ditransitive construction. That means that there's a verb that has two different objects. So one's a direct object and the other is an indirect object. Now, the most common kind of verb like this is a verb that literally means some kind of transfer, like geben. So you could say, ich gebe. And then you're going to have your indirect object. So ich gebe dem Hund. I give the dog. Den Ball, the ball, right? But in English, we do it with word order. So we can't say, I give the ball the dog. It's not the same, right? Totally shifts the meaning. In German, if those were switched around, you wouldn't have a problem because you would know from the case marking. Now, that's not to say that Germans just like randomly switch up the word order, but if that was something that they needed to do for emphasis, like, oh, nein, dem Hund gebe ich den Ball. Like, it's to the dog I'm giving the ball, not to the cat, then you can switch that around and no one's confused about what's happening. Okay, so the ditransitive construction is one that requires dative to function. That's where you have three different nouns with a single verb. Usually it has a transfer meaning like geben, schicken, schenken, kaufen, verkaufen, those kinds of things, but not necessarily. So it might be something like backen. So ich backe meiner Mutter einen Geburtstagskuchen, for example. If you bake someone something, they're ending up with that thing, right? So it's like this benefactive sense where you're doing it for them and you're going to give it to them as well. So that's the construction with those three cases that gives that transfer meaning to baking. Okay, so that's the one scenario where you need dative. Another scenario is with dative verbs. So don't ask me, I didn't make them. German has some dative verbs. Helfen, for example. So you're calling for help, you say, Hilf mir, not Hilf mich. They'll know that you're not a native speaker if you scream it like that. So Hilf mir, helfen Sie mir, bitte. It just takes a dative object. I don't know why. That's the way it is. There are a few others like that. You'll just learn it when you learn the verb. And then the last scenario where you're going to need dative is with prepositions. So there are a handful of prepositions in German, luckily a finite number, that are always dative. And those you can remember by singing the Blue Danube tune. So aus, außer, bei, mit, nach, seit, von, zu. And gegenüber, but that's a postposition, so we don't count it. Okay, so aus, out of or from, außer, except for. Bei is like at the place of. Usually you use this for like a place where you work or something like that. Or like at my house, you would say bei mir. Mit, with. Nach could mean after, or to in locations that are either city-sized or bigger. You use nach. Zu is to for locations that are smaller than a city. Von is from. Oh, seit. I got those out of order a little bit. That's okay. Seit is the last one. It means since, like since this amount of time, except we would translate it as for because it includes the present tense. So you could say, oh, ich lerne Deutsch seit einem Jahr. So seit would be since a year. That doesn't make sense in English, right? It would be for a year because it's including the present tense. Okay, so those are the different scenarios where you would need dative. When you're going to use dative, you need to remember that dative plurals get an extra N if they don't already end in N, and you've got to change those articles to match. So if you don't know the endings for the different dative articles, you should go and review them.